in Samoa last week, now in Fiji this week. And also we're going to Papua New Guinea next week to do a peer-led study on the social experiences of transgender people and gender diverse people in these two countries. So it's basically looking at the experiences in terms of, their school, their communities, culture, looking at the legal and the criminal justice systems, and also looking at some of the emerging issues that we picked up along the way. For example, when we were in Samoa last week, we looked at the experiences of trans and gender diverse people, specifically in situations of humanitarian aid services. We know that throughout this region, we've seen over the years the increase of changing weather patterns, whether it's hurricanes, flooding, drought, rising sea level, and all of that. So it's really important when we talk about any response in terms of humanitarian response in what we experience in the Pacific, it's equally important to get the experience of communities that are often not just marginalized, where their voices are sidelined when it comes to this very important conversation. And this is really an opportunity to build on that, not just on humanitarian aid services, but also looking at sexual and reproductive health issues and rights. So that has been the past 4 days, opportunity to just sit with the community. We have our grantee partner here in Fiji, which is the House Chameleon, also working alongside other organizations such as Trumpet Alliance Network, Rainbow Pride Foundation, House of Colors, and probably the other conversation we've been having this opportunity at the first time probably, not as many instances where we have transgender women and transgender men converge in a space to really have this talma and dialogue. And today we're having a conversation around legal gender recognition. And we have our expert who's been working with the Asian Pacific Transgender Network, Jack Byrne from New Zealand, and we have a national consultant also sitting here in the room, Kavita Naidu, who's well versed with the local situation in terms of the law of Fiji, as well as past cases that we're going to work closely with her to work with the community in terms of reviewing practice, cases, and all of that in terms of legal situation and rights. Right. Yeah. Did I say that, or did I mean? I'm really bad at meeting.
And people often don't know what legal gender recognition means, but it's about, many of us have to hold different ID cards. Your voter ID card, sometimes you have to show your birth certificate, your passport, your student ID card, a driver's license. And we did an exercise very early on today where people stepped forward if there were times in their lives when they were scared because what they look like doesn't match what's on their driver's license. Or where they don't do things, they avoid doing things, because of what's on their ID card. And someone explained who lives as a trans woman, explained, she can't dress the way she wants to if she has to go somewhere where she has to show that card. And we always do an introduction at the beginning where people say the name they want shared in the room and the gender, do you want, she or he? No one from Fiji in this room has an ID card with the name and the gender that they want on it right now. And it's a beginning of a conversation about how, and a card isn't just about a card, it's about being able to move through your life without discrimination, without being mocked, and actually to be safe. So it's about the issues of safety and how a card can help them. And if you're not transgender, it probably just doesn't seem like a big issue because it never comes up, because you've got the right card. But when people don't have a card, it gets in the way of every step of your life. So it's the beginning of a conversation of what some Fiji solutions could be to make it safe for people to be at school, to be at work. Maybe things like being able to change your name or your gender or your picture on documents that you have to show when you go and apply for a job. So it's about making it easier for people and coming up with some Fijian solutions.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, just to simplify matters for perhaps the vegetarians of the community, is the notion of being a transgender. So there are two major visible transgender groups, and that's the transgender female, male to female transformation like myself, and the transgender male, which is a female to male transformation. So this idea about legal gender recognition, if you may ask, oh, why is it so important? When you come through immigration with your passport, say dressing like a woman, it can be very intimidating and embarrassing and ridiculing when there's a male written there. And you can see the response from the opposite side as the confusion and sometimes a little bit of negative remarks. So these are the things that we face on a daily basis that probably is the stimulus for this desire for us to have some sort of mechanism where we can change that gender. And perhaps in those documents that we have, birth certificates, passports, driver's license. So I wish and I hope that I could be recognized as a female on that. So this is the beginning of that consultation. So it is drawn out of this discrimination that we feel. And I know that the Fiji Constitution covers the anti-discrimination against gender very, very well. And I guess this is looking or stretching that acceptance beyond just that discrimination that's written in the Constitution to a dream world where we can really have that gender recognized, the gender that we now feel that we belong to, recognized in our natal birth certificates and perhaps other documents that feed through the birth certificates. The other thing that we've been doing this week is that we are going to be, we're learning how to conduct a study that's going to come up soon, which is a peer review study, which will be performed by us, transgender males and females in Fiji. A few of us, I think it's about 10 of us. That we are going over to our community and to interview members of our own transgender communities about a variety of things in this questionnaire that will deal with discrimination, hatred, and the experiences that they have. It's called a TVT, or Transphobia Transrespect study, and that's what the Suligos is saying, that we're going to feed into the major database and it's going to be analyzed. So that's something for the media to look forward to. The result of this TVT study is going to come up soon. So that's the second thing we were doing on the first few days of this week. Today is mainly on LGR, and we're embarking on that conversation, talk about what will happen if you finally achieve a change in your birth certificate, what are some of the positive effects, negative effects that you can face, and how we can remedy it.
Thank you. So maybe for now, are there any final remarks from the member that's in the room with us, Fiji Times? Are there any burning questions that you'd like to pose to the floor?
Can I just add to while you formulate your question? Part of the conversation that we've also been having throughout the spaces where we convene with local communities who are transgender people and gender diverse people is about being authentic to yourself. You know, loving yourself as who you are as transgender people, being true to yourself. But how can we have that conversation when identity documents is saying otherwise, that we are someone that we don't identify, you know? It's still reflecting our sex assigned at birth, that we are still male. But that's not who we are. We are transgender female and we are trans masculine people. And to us, having that is important. It's also a conversation like Jack was mentioning about security and safety. In situation where a transgender person is, you know, faced with the law in terms of detention or facilities where they have to be detained by police or in prison. There is no choice of actually, you know, considering the security of transgender people and are forced to be with male. And they are placed in male prisons. So it's about having the conversation on how do we protect the specific vulnerabilities of transgender people, not just when they come in face with the law, but also when accessing services such as health, education, and all the other essential services in Fiji. So to us, this is really an important conversation. It's the first time that we're having this. And I
will take this opportunity as a last minute thing I'm a doctor, and right now I'm hoping that through this, it feeds in through our push for the Ministry of Health to establish a policy that is still non-existent at the moment regarding transgender health services. And that involves hormones that a transgender female can take to transform to a female, and vice versa, a transgender male can take to transform into a male. Now, what is happening in Fiji right now is this peculiar situation of the cart before the horse. We have our members who are accessing these hormones, either probably from overseas, through their providers overseas, or more dangerously, some of our members are just getting whatever is available. Doctors still cannot prescribe it officially because there's no policy. So a doctor like myself, I'm a transgender. If I were to help a fellow transgender acquire these hormones, some of the cheaper versions which we have, I can't prescribe it because there's no policy to protect me. If something goes wrong, I can easily be either sued or lose my license. So this is what we're trying to push with the Ministry of Health. I think I gave a speech 2 years ago, still no response, about the need for a transgender policy, health policy, for Fiji to be at least adopted on paper, such that doctors like myself can be empowered to start looking after transgender health. Because at the moment, we're all doing it under the table, hush-hush, we're all fearing a lot of things. So we're hoping that through this, we'll be able to be in a good standing to say to the Ministry of Health, come on, you need to do something.
Just lastly, I understand that the Supreme Court of India had recently passed a judgment decriminalizing same-sex. I see this as good news for the transgender equality movement in Fiji. How does the organization see this, the judgment that has been passed?
Yeah, it's just decriminalizing homosexuality, which Fiji has already done in 2009.
Yeah.
So I guess Fiji is ahead of India there. So India has just arrived at that, decriminalizing homosexuality. Yes, but out of interest, and it's a point that we've just discussed here, and it's good that the media is here, that we really think that the media needs to be sensitized with our issues, because we're just discussing some radio stations in Fiji who are on a daily basis running jokes, taunts directly at transgender communities in Fiji. And I'm sad to say that this is the Itauke radio stations. And from some of the discussions we just had today, there are some distinct observations that we've made. The Indo-Fijian community are often kind to transgenders, but the Itauke community are particularly vicious and rude and unkind. So perhaps this feeds in from the daily rhetorics that are coming out of our radio stations, Itauke radio stations, directed in a taunt and funny, derogatory way towards transgenders. And there are children listening to this. Our younger generation are listening to this on a daily basis. So that is perhaps something that the media can look at too.
Maybe for now, it is a solidarity question as well. What are some solidarity messages for our folks and friends in India? Particularly as we welcome and recognize the decriminalization of India being a global economic southern country and economy.
Well, I think there's been, first of all, I must comment and recognize the amazing work of activists on the ground in India, activists that we met in spaces that are doing amazing work in order to arrive at that when the Supreme Court decriminalized homosexuality. And then, like Lily was sharing, we decriminalized, Fiji decriminalized because, as former colonies, we still faced with some of colonial era laws that criminalize gender diverse people and gender non-conforming people. And in 2009, Fiji decriminalized homosexuality. One of the conversation now that is shifting from, decriminalization, we were just talking about it. It's about decolonizing as well. We need to start decolonizing not just our bodies, but also in terms of the policies that continue to persecute people, indigenous people, and also our community, other people that are citizens who are in Fiji. So for us, the conversation which is equally important is, not just about after decriminalization, then what then? You know? Because you can be criminalized, but it does not necessarily mean there's going to be an automatic shift of behavior and tolerance in this country. No. Transphobia and homophobia is still going to exist. The equal important conversation that we need to still engage and maybe strengthen through dialogue, multi-stakeholders dialogue with our partners, allies, government, development partners, is how do we protect LGBT people, including transgender people. That's an important conversation that we're having, and that's why we have these spaces. But most importantly, also, how do we know the situation of people? Because we come from a region and also throughout the world, there is no data, there is no research on the LGBT community. That's why this is very important. Research that is led by the community themselves. And having that data will inform us of our programming strategies, and it puts us in a position to better prepare how to respond and collectively strategize towards advancing transgender rights in Fiji and in the Pacific.
Sorry, you mentioned.
Are you live?
Yeah, we are live.
Oh.
Sorry, you mentioned about dialogue. Eh? Is dialogue working with this government?
In a way, it may be working. In other ways, it's not, because when you talk about dialogue, it's also not translating into practice. You know, you can have dialogue, but we're not seeing the changes. The impact is not really there, but the dialogue must still happen. You know, we must start somewhere, even if it does not mean there's going to be change. As activists, some of us have seen the work and nothing has changed. Things may remain stagnant throughout. And I know changes takes a long time. We might, not be here to witness the ultimate change that we want. We might pass on the next generation, but there must be some foundation set. And I think as activists in the region, this is what we're doing right now. The conversation must continue. It's just a simple dialogue that will eventually turn into some policy changes and all of that. One which I would recall is the conversation with the police commissioner, Mr. Gilliho. That was the first time that we're having this conversation. And when we were in the room, we were telling him, in 2000, when we had the coup, in 2002, when John Scott and his partner, Gregory Scrivener, was murdered, the first thing that the then Commissioner of Police, Mr. Iyesikia Sabuwa, said was, to the media was, because they were practicing homosexuality. But 2 people got murdered. Sorry, I was about to say, I forgot it was like. That from then now, looking at that shift really is an opportunity to continue the conversation with the police commissioner, for example. That is dialogue, what we had with him. And to us, we're positive about engaging with the Fiji Police Force, and we're looking forward to developing a training package with them, which we will be rolling out very soon with senior police officials, as well as looking at, remember Jack, when we talked about developing a standard operating procedure for the Fiji Police Force, that is something that he has accepted, including disaggregating the data within the Fiji Police Force in terms of making sure, how many LGBT people are coming and what are they coming for, all of that. We need those information.
And recognizing some final progress that we have just shared, Sadiq, this conference will now call it to an end. Thank you so much, Fiji Times, for being here with us and ensuring that these issues are definitely taken into full consideration. And thank you so much.